There is a moment when you realize a cat has begun to follow you, not closely, not insistently, but with a quiet consistency that feels intentional. You notice them appearing in doorways you've just passed through, sitting a few steps behind you in rooms you didn't invite them into, lingering without demanding anything at all. It doesn't feel like affection in the way humans usually recognize it. It feels more like orientation, like you have become part of the map they are using to move through their world. This is often where confusion begins, because the cat does not follow everyone. They may ignore the person who wants them most, avoid the one who reaches out too quickly, and instead stay near someone who barely seems to notice. This difference is rarely accidental, and it is almost never about love in the way people expect. Cats follow for reasons that sit beneath emotion, beneath preference, beneath story. They follow when something inside them has found a quieter way to remain alert. Proximity as safety, not attachment. For many cats, distance is not a lack of connection. It is a form of self-regulation. Distance allows them to see without being seen, to monitor without being involved, to remain aware without becoming vulnerable. Sitting across the room, choosing the edge of furniture, positioning themselves just outside reach are not acts of withholding. They are strategies, ways of maintaining peace when peace does not yet feel guaranteed. Proximity begins when that strategy is no longer required. Not because the world has become harmless, but because it has become predictable. A cat does not move closer because they feel brave. They move closer because they feel less need to defend their boundaries. When a human becomes a stable presence rather than a variable one, distance stops functioning as armor. It becomes optional. An optional distance slowly turns into chosen nearness. Why quiet humans are easier to follow. Cats are constantly reading the room, but not in the way humans imagine. They are not interpreting words or intentions. They are observing movement, posture, breath, rhythm. A human who moves calmly through space creates fewer questions. Their actions make sense before they happen. Their presence does not require anticipation. This is why cats so often gravitate toward the quieter person in a room. Not because that person is kinder or wiser, but because their nervous system does not demand attention. Stillness, for a cat, is not emptiness. It is clarity. A calm human offers fewer surprises, and fewer surprises mean fewer decisions. Proximity grows where decisions feel unnecessary. When trying becomes pressure, human affection often arrives with momentum. Particularly petting is one of the most annoying behavior for cats. Despite, the human assumes that this is affection. We reach, we call, we follow, we hope to accelerate closeness by making our interest visible. To a cat, this visibility can feel like noise. Not harmful, but demanding. Not aggressive, but activating. Cats do not move closer when they feel wanted. They move closer when they feel unrequired. A hand that waits communicates more than a hand that reaches. Space that remains available communicates trust. When effort recedes, choice becomes possible. And where choice exists, proximity has room to form. Following without touch. There are cats who will follow their humans endlessly and never ask to be held. They sit nearby, observe quietly, move when you move, and retreat when contact is introduced. This is often misunderstood as emotional distance, but it is something else entirely. It is companionship without obligation. Touch introduces uncertainty. It requires timing, consent, and surrender. Proximity does not. For some cats, sharing space is the highest form of trust they can offer. It says, "I am calm here. I do not need to leave." That calm is not incomplete simply because it does not ask for more. Nervous systems sharing space. Cats do not evaluate character. They do not measure goodness, morality, or intent. They respond to regulation. A person whose emotions fluctuate sharply, even when loving, can feel unpredictable. A person whose inner world is steady, even if imperfect, can feel safe. This is why cats sometimes choose proximity with people others avoid. It is not endorsement. It is alignment. The cat's nervous system has found a rhythm it can settle into. That rhythm matters more than personality, more than history, more than how someone is perceived by others. Proximity forms where internal noise is lowest. When proximity appears suddenly. Sometimes a cat begins following a human without any obvious change in behavior. No new gestures, no deliberate effort. Yet the cat appears more often, stays longer, moves closer. This is rarely spontaneous. More often, something subtle has shifted. A routine has slowed. Presence has softened. Tension has eased. Cats notice these changes quietly. They do not announce their recalculations. They simply adjust their distance. Proximity increases not as a reward, but as a response to a world that has become easier to navigate. Ignoring goodness, choosing stability. It can be painful to believe that a cat ignores a genuinely kind person while staying near someone less so. But this misunderstanding disappears when we stop viewing proximity as judgment. Cats are not choosing people. They are choosing conditions. Calm outweighs affection. Predictability outweighs effort. A cat that follows someone is not making a statement about worth. They are responding to what allows them to remain regulated in the present moment. Nothing more, nothing less. Proximity as an ongoing conversation. Proximity is not a final decision. It is a living negotiation. Cats move closer and farther as circumstances change. What felt safe yesterday may feel uncertain today. What felt distant once may slowly become familiar. This fluidity is not inconsistency. It is intelligence. Cats adjust constantly, refining their distance based on what continues to work. When proximity remains, it is because the environment continues to feel quietly reliable. When proximity deepens, sometimes over time, proximity transforms. A cat that once sat across the room begins choosing the space beside you. Pause becomes a rest. A watchful presence becomes shared stillness. This shift is never dramatic. It arrives without ceremony. It happens because peace has proven itself repeatable. Because nothing bad has happened for long enough that vigilance no longer needs to lead. What emerges is not attachment in the human sense, but a settled form of trust that does not need to announce itself. There is a quiet truth beneath all of this that often goes unnoticed. Cats are not trying to send messages, teach lessons, or reward behavior. They are simply arranging themselves in a way that allows their bodies to rest without vigilance. When a cat follows someone, or chooses to stay nearby, it isn't a declaration of love or a rejection of others. It is a moment-by-moment decision about where safety feels easiest to maintain. This is why proximity can change, why it can appear and disappear without explanation. Cats are responding to the present, not the story we tell about ourselves. They stay where movement is predictable, where emotions don't spill into the room, where nothing needs to be managed. And when they choose to share space, even quietly, even without touch, it's because something in that environment has become reliable enough to trust. Understanding this doesn't make us chosen. It makes us aware. And awareness, more than effort, is what allows proximity to remain. Observing and monitoring the proximity may reveal the feeling patterns of your feline body. Keep an eye on proximity. This pattern will show you trustable information. Cats do not follow randomly. They do not follow goodness. They do not follow desire. They follow what feels steady. They follow what makes sense without explanation. They follow when proximity no longer feels like risk. Sometimes, being followed simply means you have become a place where nothing needs to be managed. If this way of looking at cats feels familiar to you, you may already understand that connection is not always loud, visible, or emotionally expressive. Sometimes it arrives as shared space, as quiet company, as movement that happens without being asked. If you'd like to continue exploring these subtle patterns between cats, humans, and the spaces they share, you're welcome to subscribe. New episodes continue in the same reflective, observational tone. Until next time, Notice who stays nearby and how gently they do it.